I believe I believe meetings will make you more money if you're running them well. Hey you guys, I'm Jonah Magness. Welcome back to the Magness Mogul Podcast. I own and operate martial arts studios, and today we're going to talk about the things that I've used for myself and some of my friends to help us be more successful. Today we're going to talk about when, how, and why we run our meetings, the frequency of them, and the goal for each type of meeting that we run for our studio. I'll be the first person to say that I did not enjoy meetings, especially when I had to take over this process. It was really, really hard for me to do it, and I just opted to not do them ever unless something really important was coming up. And I started to see the downfall of the communication and how much more time I was spending trying to get everybody on the same page without having meetings. We do 3 different types of meetings. We have our owners meeting, we do one-on-one meetings, and then we have our all-team meeting. Our whole team is about 8 people right now. We have 3 owners as well as then just our one-on-one. That was terrible. We have 3 different types of meetings. We have our owners meeting, our all-team meetings, and our one-on-one meetings. We have about 8 people for our whole team, and there's 3 owners, and we make sure we meet at least 2 of us every single week, and we'll talk about what those meetings look like for each of those levels. We're going to focus on the when, the how, and the why for each of our 3 meetings. So for the when, for us owners, all 3 of us meet once a month, and then the 2 of us that are active in the studio pretty much every day, we meet once a week. We have our meeting with our coach, and then we meet with each other after to debrief and add some little bit more specificity of what our goals are. Starting with the win. So for all 3 of us owners to meet, we do that like once a month, and then for the 2 of us that are active in the studio every day, we make sure we meet every single week right after we meet with our coach. We do those meetings on Mondays, usually in the morning. The win for our all-team meeting is going to be on Mondays at the end of the night. We used to do them on Thursdays, but we saw a lot more success once we pushed it to the start of the week, because then I wouldn't have the weekend for my whole team to forget what we talked about. The meetings for the owners and our all-team are about 30 to 60 minutes, depending on how much we have to talk about on those Mondays. Like I said, as owners, we all meet in the morning, and then we'll do Monday evenings after our first day of classes to meet with the rest of the team. One-on-one meetings we just use for check-ins now. So we try and do them like 1-2 times a month, even if it's just like 15 minutes before work. But we want to make sure we sit down with our team members and just talk to them about their life, about their goals, about what's going on outside of work and inside of work to help them feel more successful. How we do these meetings is super important. We've tried a couple different ways, so let's talk about it for each of them. For us owners, we do our Zoom meeting with our coach on Monday, and then we meet right after. We usually just do our meeting on the phone unless we are in the studio already having our meeting with our coach. And it's super easy because all we're doing is we're just running through the goals of the week, what happened last week, and like the bigger projects and stuff like that to make sure we know what's coming in the next like 3 to 6 months, plus what's going to be immediately important to cover in our meeting that night with our team. For our all-team meeting, most everybody's in the studio at the end of classes, but we also have Zoom available because not everybody works that day. Makes it a little bit easier, and we haven't seen any issues with communicating that way and just making it a better opportunity. If they're on vacation, they can still jump in the meeting, have their headphones in, and be able to participate with us. For our one-on-one check-in meetings, we always do these in person. We want to make sure that we get to sit down, even if it's the 10 or 15 minutes before work, or we go grab coffee or smoothies or lunch with them so that we can sit down and talk in person. And we make it a point to make ourselves available to them at a time that works for them. Next up is the why. Why we run each of these meetings, what our goals are for these meetings, and exactly how we get that across. For the owners meeting, it's all about vision casting. We want to talk about and know about what's happening that week, that month, and the next 3 months, 6 months, even a year out, knowing exactly what we're doing and where we're going and how what we do this week can impact what's coming up later and down the road. We make sure we have the big picture set before we meet that evening. We'll also do some pre-prep for the meeting that we're having that evening. Outside of anything that happens that day, we make sure we know who we're going to be highlighting, who we're going to be reaching out to, who we're going to be praising, who we're going to be showing that standout for. And we reach out to anybody who we think we would like to talk that evening and add to the conversation, whether that be someone who was working and had something happen that they had better experience in the story to share, or if it's someone who I know would be a really good person to talk about whatever topic we're trying to cover that evening. I let them talk and give them some participation. Definitely brings us all together a lot more. Now, the why for running the all-team meetings is probably the most obvious, but we just want to get everybody on the same page. Going back to when I didn't like to have meetings, it was really hard to do that. So being able to keep everybody on the same page is super, super important, and it helps them understand when I sit down, I'm making sure that I can convey what our vision casting was from earlier and what's most relevant for the week, plus getting to celebrate them in front of everybody else because everybody loves that public praise. In the all-team meeting, we will also go over letting our team praise each other, letting them announce who was killing it helping in the class, who was killing it off the floor, who was killing it on the floor, any compliments they got from parents or students and stuff like that, as well as being able to talk about which of our students and our clients and our families maybe had a harder conversation with us or a positive conversation with us. That way we're all on the same board of who needs improvement, who can be reached out to talk about leveling up and everything else along those lines. That way, again, we're just all on the same page from on the floor to off the floor and what our goals are. I used to only use one-on-one meetings for hard conversations, whether that be like the warning before firing, messing up, anything, when I hear stuff outside of the studio, when I hear what's going on with them, and then it all starts coming back to me if I see poor performance. But now, and that made it for a really, really bad environment when I would invite them to come to these meetings. So I made it a much better point to just try and reach out and have these meetings once a month, once every 2 months, and making sure that I'm just giving all of my knowledge and giving all that I can to help my team level up, whether that be staying with us or that is them being able to pursue the career and the goal that they really truly aspire to. I want to just make sure that I'm creating leaders in life, and how I get to do that, just sitting down with them one-on-one and just listening to them and hearing and creating that relationship and rapport. And I found one-on-one meetings to be the best way to do that, and it creates a positive environment where we're just meeting, and if they then know that they can just communicate about anything and everything that's going on in their lives, and I'll do my best to help them out. And that's really what I want it to be all about in the studio, so I have to make sure I show my team that outside of the studio. Along with that, I'm able to dream big for them. I get to hear what's going on in their lives, and I get to tell them bigger goals and better goals, or even just give words to the goals and things that it sounds like they're trying to aspire to, or give them tips on who to talk to in the studio, or who I might know that might help them get to that next step or next level, help them with their school life, help them with their outside of work life, give them ideas for what they can do next if they have a different goal or a new passion project that they're working on. And I'm able to just help form their ideas a little bit better, and it's really fun for me to be able to do that and give back to my team in that way. So I already talked about not wanting to run meetings because I never liked them, but that was the operative thing, is I didn't like meetings, so I didn't want to run them, but I was in charge of them, so I had total control on what happened in these meetings. And finally, I just implemented the rule that we use for our classes. And I have my instructors, I have my coaches understand and learn that if you're bored, they're twice as bored. And we want to make sure that never happens. If we're having fun while we're getting the curriculum across, it's going to come across in our teaching and our abilities to convey our message. So I need to implement that for my meetings. I need to make the meetings an environment that I was excited to sit down and talk with them about, whether that's one-on-one or whether that's the all-team meetings. I needed to be able to make it an enjoyable environment, so it wasn't just me talking at them for like 20, 30, 45 minutes. I want to make sure it was actually something of value. So a couple things that I added in was having them talk, making them talk, honestly, giving the praise reports out from ourselves, and then encouraging other people if they saw somebody standing out and rocking it, and help create a really, really strong community environment of, it's really easy to ask people to do things and step up and do and all of that, but then we get caught up in teaching, and it's hard to remember to tell them, hey, I appreciate you doing that, or hey, that was awesome. And once we started doing that in our meetings, it created a really fun environment for all of us. Also, I started implementing having them help with ideas for events in general, but then once we have an event plan, what we can do with that event, or maybe a different idea for merchandise, or we did a drawing competition for one of our t-shirts with our team. Any one of them could have submitted a shirt idea and design, and we picked 2 of them and we just rolled them out, and they were some of our most successful shirts, which is awesome. But letting our team use their brains to help us be more successful, and letting them have a little bit more of a hands-on experience in what it's like getting to grow and level up the business. And once I started doing those things, the whole entire process became more enjoyable for all of us. And I'm really happy that now when we sit down for our meetings, everybody's jumping on right away, nobody's late, people participate and talk much more willingly, which is way more fun and helps the time pass more quickly as we're getting through whatever our meeting notes are for that week. It took me way too long to understand there's no such thing as over communicating, especially with your team. So I want to make sure that somebody else hopefully watches this video and starts setting up more meetings and makes the meetings more fun for themselves, so their team feels like it's more fun for them. If you're setting up the meeting, it's on you if it's boring. And that took me way too long to realize that I had total control over that process and how to make it more enjoyable for myself and for my team, and telling them every single step of the way, this is how the business is doing, this is how to get to the next level, this is how you can help, what ideas do you have? Getting that back and forth conversation in a small business is something that we have a unique advantage of, and I want to be able to take advantage of that and make sure that we're able to keep leveling ourselves up by incorporating more minds, more opinions, and more ideas. If you like this video, share it with someone who wants to improve their meetings. Watch the rest of the video in my playlist and subscribe for more. Peace.